What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Aaron from the Wrestle Plug here to talk about AEW Dynamite, which has quite literally just finished. So hopefully you'll be listening to this pretty much straight after the show, or at least, within the hour, which would be pretty sweet. So if you are listening, make sure you let us know your thoughts on AEW in the comments below, and of course, like and subscribe to all of our content. Follow us on YouTube and all the social media links. You can find all the details in the description of said YouTube video. AEW Dynamite this week. I don't want to upset people, but I thought it was pretty boring. There was some good stuff, don't get me wrong, and I like the show overall. But if you listen to the podcast regularly, the audio one that we drop every Thursday, we do a State of Wrestling address, and we talk about AEW Dynamite versus WWE NXT and what each show brings to the pie. And both shows are great in my opinion, but one thing, I haven't seen NXT yet, but one thing that I have really enjoyed about AEW is that every single week they bring a lot of heat and a lot of storylines. And that's something that sometimes NXT doesn't do as well. And this week felt a little bit more of a wrestling show as opposed to a story-based wrestling show, if you know what I mean. This was the kind of show that if you were there live, you would have had a wicked time. You could see that with the Utah fans. Great fun. Really excitable, really lively, really got involved nicely, some great unique chants flying around. Really enjoyed this crowd, actually. One of the best crowds they've had for an AEW Dynamite so far. And I've got to say as well, AEW fans as a whole have been fantastic. I think when the crowd's lively and they're exciting and they get involved and they back the product, it makes for such a better spectacle, not only there but also on TV. It's so cool seeing fans engaged. If you go back and watch like Attitude Era stuff, Stone Cold Steve Austin when that glass shatters and people were losing their minds, and WCW Nitro with NWO, and there'd be t-shirts everywhere and there'd be signs everywhere and there'd be people trying to jump the barrier, litter being thrown in the ring and all this stuff. It all added to the excitement and the atmosphere of what you were watching, and that's something that the AEW fans have been killing it on. So if you're an AEW fan and you're attending Dynamite shows, congratulations, because you're just adding to the product, and I really love that. There was nothing wrong with Dynamite this week, but there was a lot of matches and not really much storyline progression or things going on. And you've got this Blood and Guts mini pay-per-view, so to speak, coming up. I've got a special rant on that, my opinions on it, and obviously if you check out our rants videos, which are starting to drop now, as you know, I love a good rant. I've just dropped a rant as to why I don't think AJ Styles versus The Undertaker is a good idea, and you should check that out too. We'll probably provide that in the link at the end of this video, so please check that out as well. All that fresh content, it just keeps coming and coming and coming, so please get involved, make sure you tell your friends, and subscribe. Didn't enjoy this show from a storyline perspective, thought it was a bit boring. And with the big old War Games-esque Blood and Guts match / Dynamite / mini pay-per-view thing going on that they're going to have in a couple of weeks, I think we needed more emotion and storytelling. Did enjoy the end, but as much as I enjoy these clusterfuck finishes, these WCW Nitro-esque endings, I don't need to see it every week. It does seem to be there's one, it's just a schmoz every week. Yeah, one week we've got whoever's facing two guys or one guy from the Inner Circle, and then it just breaks down into a brawler, and ultimately the Inner Circle seems to get the upper hand. And I also mentioned this on Twitter earlier, because we always live tweet things at WrestlePlug. If you want to join us for the live tweets at any time, we love to interact and hear your opinions. I mentioned that it seems very stupid that every single time the Inner Circle are dominating or being dastardly at the end of a match, that the good guys, the elite, whoever that may be running down to hell, them, they come down one by one. And of course, when there's 5 or 6 guys delivering a beatdown in the ring, how is one guy coming down every so often going to help? It's like a Royal Rumble mentality. If you had Kane and The Undertaker and The Rock and, Rikishi all standing there in the ring, whooping the ass of whoever keeps coming in at Royal Rumble, of course the one guy isn't going to get an upper hand. It's a bit dumb, really, for me. It's dumb little storytelling, but it's still enjoyable. I'll give him that. I thought the main event was the best part of the show. As people know, I've not been on board with the Hangman Page storyline. Really enjoyed his character, really enjoyed his wrestling. Not really enjoyed the storyline of him being a borderline alcoholic and being more reliant on beer. And I like the idea that he doesn't trust the rest of his elite guys, and he feels that he's the black sheep of the elite. And I enjoyed that, and I like the way it's delivered, but I don't think that overall the content has done him or the product enough justice, at least not in my eyes. But people seem to love it, and that's absolutely fine. The great thing about wrestling is it's subjective, and so many people differ, and I seem to be in a minority, and that's absolutely fine. And I'm just pleased that someone like Hangman Page, who felt a little bit stale in places, is starting to deliver an excellent quality promo as well as that in-ring style every week, and I'm really enjoying that. So I did sigh a little bit when I saw Dustin Rhodes as his tag partner. I thought, oh, come on, man. I thought we had some cool mystery partner. We thought we were going to get maybe Brody Lee or Matt Hardy, and I thought, no, I'm not. I love Dustin Rhodes. I absolutely adore him. I'm somebody who got to see him as Goldust and all these different incarnations, and he truly is a legend in his business, certified Hall of Famer. But yeah, I must admit, I did get a little bit of a KO versus Seth Rollins feel about this. If anybody's been watching Raw and WWE, they'll know they've just been recycling the same kind of rivalry. Insert these guys versus these guys every week, and here's a different variation of it. It was a bit like when the Shield would just constantly keep facing three guys and beating them every single week. It just got a little bit tedious, and it would be nice to see it freshened up a little bit and mixed up. And obviously with the inclusion of Lance Archer, who's going to be what I can see as the kind of hitman for Jake Roberts as the valet / manager, that will hopefully inject a little bit of freshness to the product. There's nothing wrong with it, but there was nothing particularly right for me. I got to see Death Triangle, was very happy about that. Triangulo de la Muerte, beautiful stuff, absolutely adore it. I've seen a lot of people shitting on the name. Who cares? Death Triangle's great. It's no, okay, it's funny because one of the other factions is called the Inner Circle. Well, that's quite cool, but people are like, ugh, Deathly Triangle. Like, Death Triangle, it's stupid, it sounds like the Deathly Hallows. It's not a bad thing. The Deathly Hallows is one of the most recognised symbols in the world. Very popular, made a lot of money in the Harry Potter series. Probably not a bad thing to harness a bit of that energy. But yeah, they had a great match. That was the best wrestling match for me. It was phenomenal, but didn't really move along the storyline. I guess the storyline is that the best friends and Orange Cassidy don't like Pac and the Lucha Brothers. The problem, however, is that, let's be honest, the Lucha Brothers and Pac should be wiping the floor with those guys because they're clearly superior, better wrestlers, better athletes, more vicious. The idea that two guys who hug and their friend who can't be asked to wrestle, who has his hands in his pockets for the majority of the time, they shouldn't be able to beat arguably three of the most dangerous assassins in modern wrestling history. So I find it hard to suspend my disbelief there. I know I sound like a miserable old man, but it's just not for me personally, and I am an uber mark for Death Triangle, and I don't think they should be wasting their time with the middling mid-carders. They should be right at the top already, and I think Pac has already pretty much proven his quality and his assertion in AEW, and I feel like at this point it's just, I'm sitting here waiting for Pac to basically get his due diligence and get his reward, his just rewards, or maybe bring in the trio titles that they've used in places like Shikara and Ring of Honor, and then give them those, because you've got a lot of trio-esque factions here, or people who could be trios. You've got SCU, you've got the Dark Order, you've got the Inner Circle, you've got Butcher and the Blade and MJF. So many trios involved. I actually think that if you're going to, have all these guys remain long term as trios and factions and whatnot, trios title seems to be the right way to go, particularly as they've been floating the idea of a mid-card belt. So maybe the trios titles could be the mid-card titles. That'd be very cool, very exciting, and something very different. We've never, not since the old days of WWF, we haven't really had a major company with trios belts. I know some people might say Ring of Honor, but has it really ever been on a high enough level to be considered a major company? Not really. It was a fantastic independent at one point, and it's certainly worthy of its place in the wrestling world, but I don't think it stacks up to a WWF or a WCW or ECW or anything like that. That's just my 2 cents on that. But yeah, trios titles would be pretty sick. The biggest problem I had with AEW, once again, on Dynamite, was the lack of women's wrestling. everybody who listens to our podcast will know we love wrestling, and we love women's wrestling as well. Particularly, we're all about the equality, and we love the fact that there are so many world-class women's wrestlers who are on a par, if not better than a lot of the male athletes these days. And once again, it's a token tag match. It's a good match for what it is. It's Hikaru Shida and Kris Statlander versus Bea Priestley and the AEW Women's Champion, Nyla Rose. Fine match. Not much in the way of storytelling. I'm going to upset people again. I don't think Kris Statlander she's not my cup of tea. I think she's a decent enough wrestler, but nothing that moves the needle, or God forbid, she doesn't feel like a superstar. That's what I'm basically trying to say. I don't think she's on a level with someone like a Nyla Rose. I don't get the gimmick. I don't think the gimmick's used properly. I think that's down to AEW more so than Kris Statlander. Some people have said to me, if you watch AEW Dark, there's more about it on there. I was like, that's fine, but that's just a YouTube Dark show. I mean, they even call it AEW Dark. So they're not trying to suggest that it is on a par with Dynamite. It's a good little show, and it's good if you just want to watch some cheeky extra wrestling matches. But most people will want to see their storylines progress on the main TV show, not on AEW Dark. And the women just get jack shit. They do. They had this, what was it, about 10, 15 minutes. It was a good match. Great to see Bea Priestley again. Obviously, being a British wrestling fan, knowing Bea Priestley so well, seeing her at so many shows was really exciting for me. Really thrilled for her, because she's a fantastic wrestler, really is. And she's got a really great attitude about her. I remember when I first started doing this podcast many moons ago, I had the opportunity to actually meet Bea in the ring at a Lucha Forever show. She was just so lovely to me, just a real class act, and I really loved and admired the quality of her character. I really appreciate Bea Priestley, and I've always been a fan ever since. Also love the gimmick, love the whole Mortal Kombat-esque kind of look about her. Very cool. But yeah, the women had a good match. And then you had Britt Baker come out about, however long later, do her usual boring shtick. I want Britt Baker to succeed, I really do. And I like the fact that they've turned a heel and they've tried to change things, but it's the same shit every week. BMI, sugar, shitty teeth, great. Anything else? It's like you got this checklist of the most boring, stereotypical things you can say as a heel. It's like off their image, check. Incestual comments, check. It's in Utah, not Tennessee. No offense, Tennessee. No, I'm sorry, Arkansas. I don't know, whatever southern state. I'm not from America. I don't give a shit. Come on. It's just a checklist of things, and they're all crap. And also, as Steve, the good brother who is on hiatus from the podcast, said to me on a State of Wrestling address a few weeks back when Britt Baker initially turned heel, yeah, it's fine, but most of the material that she's using has already been used by Bayley when she turned heel on SmackDown in WWE. And for anyone who watches both products like we do, it feels lazy and it feels drawn out. I do like the dynamic of her and Tony Schiavone. I think that's quite cute, quite funny. This kind of condescending one. Like the fact that Big Swole's like, Big Swole obviously comes out, which is fucking awesome, by the way, because I love Big Swole, and she is woefully underused in this product. I think genuinely she's probably one of the best wrestlers they have when it comes to a combination of athleticism and character, and for some reason doesn't seem to find herself being used enough. Ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. So she comes out, squares up with Britt Baker, says, you don't do fuck all, essentially, and then makes that shitty little comment, Tony doesn't even like you. And I'm pretty sure Tony kind of very quietly says into the mic, try and keep it kayfabe, Big Swole, because he doesn't want to get a load of grief from Britt Baker who's hiding behind him. Love Big Swole. Hate the use of the women. Lazy AEW. Sorry, but you should be doing better. You haven't got any real major marquee women's wrestlers on here. Hikaru Shida is the standout for me. She was phenomenal in that tag match. She carried the whole thing. She was the glue that held the whole thing together. That incredible show of strength picking up Nyla Rose. She looks like she should be the next contender. The crowd were chanting, holy Shida, which was very cool, by the way. Very inventive. Something a bit different. We like that as a British fan, and as you know, British fans are well known for their vocal nonsense during matches. Was very appreciative of that. Well done, Utah fans. Again, brilliant stuff. Yeah, I thought she was the standout, but yeah, there's no suggestion of her going anywhere. There's no promos. There's no story behind who Hikaru Shida is and what she's doing. they seem to have very quickly just kind of left the women to it in the corner. It's like, you go and sit in the corner, you do your own thing. We'll give you like 10, 15 minutes every week, and then, we'll just focus on the other stuff. And it shows for me. And I think that if you watch, whether it be Impact Wrestling, or WWE NXT, or even Raw or SmackDown, or even, like, if you go further afield and watch things like Stardom or Ice Ribbon in Japan, the women's wrestling is streets ahead on every other product. AEW has by far and away the worst booked and worst represented women's division. I'm not going to say the worst women's division full stop, because there's some really talented women in there. And you've got a truly exceptional pioneer of a champion in Nyla Rose. Somebody who champions not only sexuality, but intrigue and difference and power and everything that comes with that. She is not only a phenomenal inspiration to so many people who struggle with gender identity and sexuality, but she is also an incredible powerhouse with a great ability on the mic. And she's very funny, she's very vicious, she has a lot of things going for her, and yet she very rarely finds herself on prominent TV speaking to an announcer, having promo time, and that is a huge fucking failure by whoever is in charge of AEW. And I'm so sick of banging on about this every week, but I will continue in the hope that at least one person hears here and he gets back to the people in AEW, because you should be doing fucking better. And I hate to sound like that obnoxious fat guy in his basement, because I don't. I have my own house and I train to be a wrestler myself, and I work fucking hard at my craft, and I put a lot of hours into everything that I do in my life. I genuinely believe I can book the women far better than you are right now. I truly believe that, because it's not really that fucking hard to give women who have talent like Nyla Rose and Big Swole more mic time, more abilities to show off, and more time in the ring. I've got no problem with Death Triangle versus Joey Janela and Private Party. That was fucking amazing. I've got no problem with the main event. I've got no problem with all these 3-on-3 matches or tag team matches, Jurassic Express and MJF and Butcher and Blender. Trim some fat. Trim a little bit off of all of those. Just say to the guys, look, we need to cut it down by a couple of minutes, because we want to make sure the women get at least 25. Minimum, the women should be getting 30 minutes of this broadcast every single week. If you want anyone to give a fucking shit about your women's division, you have to give them at minimum 25%, because there are some real talents in here, but you cannot get over as a star or come across as a star if you are given 5-10 minutes. What this feels like is a Divas era, but with a little bit more wrestling, in the sense of, obviously they're far more talented. However, they are given a 5 or 10 minute match, and then if they're very lucky, they might get 1-2 minute segment on the show, and that's it. And then you're expected to kind of fend for yourself and find the content of the women elsewhere. And I think that's unacceptable. They need to do better. They need to push people more. I want to see Nyla Rose on my TV more. I want to see Britt Baker with new content. I want to see Big Swole pushed to the moon, because she looks incredible. Amazing look. In one moment, she dropped one of the best lines that any woman has said on this entire show since the inception of it back in October in Washington, when she just basically turned around to Britt Baker and said, "I'm married, baby." Great little shot that is. Oh, nice little bit of fire on that. Love that. Serious shade from Big Swole. Always got time for that nonsense. Lovely stuff. Ultimately, it comes down to, how much do you actually really want this women's division to thrive and for people to give a shit? Because the crowd was so responsive to that women's tag team match, and I would have forgiven them if they weren't, because it's not like anyone has given you any reason to give a shit about those women, and yet they went out there, delivered an amazing match, and the crowd was so hot for it. And that's credit to the fans for being proper, good wrestling fans who wanted to get involved in every aspect and were really enjoying everything that they were fed on the show. So give them a little bit more, instead of just giving the women the cheap side and sort of throwing them on AEW Dark. Do better for your women's product. Not really much else to speak about when it comes to AEW Dynamite. Thought it was fine, thought it was solid, didn't move the needle, and obviously the majority of storytelling is going to be circled around this War Games match. But if you want to hear my thoughts on War Games, you're going to have to check out the exclusive rant that I will be dropping later on the channel. I was going to tie it in with this video, but I'm thinking I might tie in the AJ Styles Undertaker rant, because a lot of people have been messaging me saying, hey, I want to hear your opinions. Make sure you hit the link up for us, because we haven't been able to see it or find it. So that's going to be available on the end of this video. So please check that out, and check out all the other videos and content that we're consistently trying to drop. If you've got any thoughts on what you'd like to hear me rant about, because we do have an Aaron rant section, I am more than happy to rant about anything if I'm passionate about it in the wrestling business. As you know, I'm very fucking passionate about the wrestling business. And please check out all our social media channels. We've got full matches, full highlights from so many different moments in wrestling history on our Facebook. Our Instagram is consistently being updated with news, great pictures, rare pictures, match footage, highlights, comedy, everything to help you get through the working day. And obviously on Twitter we are consistently interacting as well, at WrestlePlug for all of it. And Twitter is where we also do so many live tweets, and we're going to be looking at maybe doing a few watch-alongs very, very soon. Not to mention, we've got so many interviews with British wrestling and even some American indie wrestlers coming through, which are going to be landing very soon. All those interviews are going to be available in full on the audio podcast and on YouTube. So do not fear, if you're just checking us out on YouTube, you're going to get a lot of content, and you won't miss out on any of the good stuff from the audio podcast as well. But please, wherever you find WrestlePlug, wherever you see the black and yellow brand, make sure you subscribe and get involved. And I will be back very soon to review more nonsense from the wrestling world.